Welcome everyone to the All In on Real Estate Meetup. I'm your host, Aaron Goins. We are an affiliate of the GOB Network, proud affiliate of the GOB Network. And the reason why I started this meetup is because when I was in the military, no one in my circle talked about real estate. A lot of times they talked about TSP, saving money, debt, and stocks and bonds. And a lot of times people deploy, you come back and see a lot more dog chargers and pickup trucks on the road instead of appreciating value items like real estate. So I wanted to have a educational meetup so people can learn the benefits of real estate so they can build wealth for their families and for themselves. So I am super excited today for our guest speakers. They came, I had a situation that I had a speaker drop out because of military obligations, and these two ladies stepped in. So I'm very, very grateful for them to be a tag team right here. And I met both of them last year. Great, great women. I have a good story to tell about Ashley in a minute. But stay tuned, guys. This is going to be a great, great episode. I am so, so excited. So we're going to get started right away. So Ashley, Leka, please unmute yourself. Please introduce yourself, everybody. We're going to get started this Q&A session right now.
Hello, everybody. So excited to be here, Aaron. Thank you for having us.
Did you want to introduce yourself first, Leka?
Sure. I can do that, Ashley. Okay, so my name is Leka, Devatha. Maybe we should introduce each other. But anyway, I'm in the Seattle, Washington area and have been in real estate investing for the last 7 years. I started doing single family fix and flip, and that evolved into something much bigger than myself. And now I'm in a crossroads where I want to do so many cool things, like going to commercial real estate, starting a startup focused on assisted living facilities across the country. So just a few little things, but it's been an amazing journey because I get to come on these meetups and meet such cool people.
So hi everyone. Yep. Hi everyone. My name is Ashley Wilson, and I started in real estate about 12 years ago. I started with house hacking, short-term rentals, then went to long-term rentals, flipping, high-end flipping. And then for the past 3 years, I've been in commercial, specifically multifamily. So I have done a little bit of everything. I'm also invested in precious metals and notes. So I kind of have a little bit of experience in different asset classes, but I have heavily spent a lot of time and a lot of focus on multifamily and high-end flipping. And those are my two primary businesses today. Like Leka, I enjoy different asset classes, but I'm pretty hyper-focused right now on commercial, specifically multifamily. That's where I see the future. And that's where I see more alignment in what I want out of life and where my specialty is. So that's what is going to be my focus moving forward and has been for the past few years.
Well, welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for coming. And before we really get to the Q&A session, can you talk about that background in your, what is that in the background, Ashley? Some kind of, what is it, book or something like that, I see?
So I was honored that Leka wanted to join me with 18 other women in The Only Woman in the Room, Knowledge and Inspiration from 20 Women Real Estate Investors. And the reason I came up with this book, if you haven't read the forward of the book, is I was at Dave Van Horn's Mid-Atlantic Summit a few years back, and Liz Faircloth and Andressa Godelli, the co-founders of the Real Estate Invest Her community, asked all the women in attendance to have lunch together. And while we were sitting at just 2 tables squeezed together, comprised of 16 women, I looked around the room, and it was the first time in my life where I was flabbergasted at the fact that out of 450 attendees, there were only 16 women sitting at this table. Now, keep in mind, my dad is a general contractor. I've been surrounded by men and being the only woman in the room. And then I went to an all boys high school where they converted to coeducation my sophomore year, and it was 3-1, but never in my life had I realized. And I also, too, my senior year of college lived with 13 men, and I was the only woman in that house too. But that was the first realization where I was just dumbfounded at the fact that there were so few women in real estate. I mean, even look at the attendees tonight on this call. It's still very heavily men. And it's not, if you've read the book, you know, it's not about minimizing the contributions that men make to real estate. It's not about that. It's actually more about highlighting women's contributions and giving them a platform in which they can highlight their careers. Because one thing I noticed is that there are very few women keynote speakers at events, but yet women are the most giving with their information and lessons learned on their real estate journeys. But I also noticed that all these keynote speakers had a book backing them. So I wanted to provide a book to back all of these women who I feel of incredible credibility and should be keynote speakers on these events moving forward. So that was a huge motivation for the book, coupled with a fact of inspiring future generations to have these role models to look up to moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm so honored for you guys to do that. I got your book, as you know, and great book, and I'm so honored this month to have the first 4 weeks women speakers, and I just want to say thank you guys once again for volunteering to be guest speakers at a short notice, especially your busy schedules. So one thing I want to start off with is with Leka, because I saw a post, and she know I'm ready to go at. I saw a post this week from her. I know what happened. So could you please, Leka, just talk about the patience and how patience paid off for you big time?
Yes. I started in fix and flip, and I wanted to originally be in real estate to build homes, so new construction projects. Once I started digging into that, I realized that it would take me 2 to 3 years to build a house in my area, just with construction delays and permitting and land horizontal construction. Like the whole thing would take about 2 to 3 years. And so I picked the easy route. I picked single family fix and flip because it was fast paced, and it was you get in and get out quick. You make a paycheck, typically every month if you're flipping that many properties, and that worked great for me. But in 2017, I ended up buying another house to just fix and flip. I was going to get in and out in 3 months. But that project ended up being a 4-year land subdivision, where I ended up buying the house, flipping it, renting it out instead of just selling it, renting it out. So the rent covered my mortgage. And then I embarked on this journey to divide that lot. Now, the reason that it's important to tell you that this process was, first, it was extremely hard. The things that I learned along the way, I could just use that to move forward and make a fortune with subdividing lots. But also, it's in the highest median income, household income location in the country. It's called Sammamish, Washington. And the household income in Sammamish, Washington is $174,000. And the reason that that's important is because that is a very, very affluent community with no inventory. So to go in there and be able to create 3 spots from one, that was quite incredible. So I started this process about 4 years ago, and this week signed the closing documents for my very last lot. So from start to finish took me just over 4 years, but that process taught me to be just patient, taught me to look at it one step at a time, but keep my eyes on the ultimate prize, which was having those 3 lots subdivided. And every day I felt like this wasn't going to work. Every day I felt like the city was going to come back and say that there was some issue with the zoning or the permitting, and that this whole thing was going to blow up in my face. Every day I faced with challenges, everything from getting our initial financing to then financing. I mean, I spent about 500K just in permitting costs and horizontal construction costs, which is all of my utility construction. And I did not have 500 grand to spend on one project because I was doing 10 other projects, and every project of mine cost about $1 million. So there was no way I was going to have more money to spend on this project. But setting up the financing for that, and then even just building out my horizontal construction, like I've never put a sewer line or a water line or sidewalks or curbs, like just going into all of that, which was going to take 3 months, but ended up taking a whole year. Through the process, like I was just going to trudge along, and no matter what the big obstacle was, what hurdles were placed in my path, I was like, no, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to demolish all these hard hurdles, and I'm just going to keep moving forward. And just ended up being a super lucrative deal, made almost $1 million on the in profit, which, you know, it's a big deal. So that's my story on patience and grit and just staying the course.
So if you had just did initial fix and flip, how much money would you have probably made if you just did the initial one?
About 40K.
So from 40K to almost $1 million is, but a lot of patience for that too. That's awesome. That is awesome. Awesome. And good for you. And congratulations.
Thank you.
So I met both these ladies last year at the PMW real estate conference. And I remember Ashley, because Ashley was like, hey, I saw her one day, and the next day she said, look, I need to talk to you. And she gave me some of the best advice I've heard from somebody from investing, real estate investing in a great while. And you know, one thing about her is that I love that her teamwork with her husband. When I first met them, I was like, who is this lady that they taking a photo of? They're doing some kind of commercial or something like that right there. But then I realized that just the power of the couple and how they're working together for the outcome. And I really got to know them really well. And then Leka, I had seen her before in a couple of meetups, but it was awesome just to talk to her face to face and really get to know her. So just awesome. And I thank you guys for your friendship. So Ashley, why did you switch from single family? Because you were talking about it already, but why you switch from basically single family to multifamily?
The reason we switched from single family to multifamily was actually for a couple of reasons. We wanted to switch from single family just because if you look at the tax exposure on single family, it's pretty heavy and it doesn't align with our long-term strategy of where we wanted to go. So as Leka alluded to earlier, depending on the volume you're doing, it's a consistent paycheck, but at the same time, it's still being on that treadmill and continuing to only make money at one point in the ownership of that asset. So if you look at single family, for example, just to break it down, you're only making money on the transaction, on the sale, and then all of that work is really for nothing after that. Multifamily for us, not only from a tax perspective, it's a different kind of strategy. So it's not saying that I'm not trying to knock single family flipping, because clearly I still do it, but it's a complementary strategy in the sense that we were flipping and getting cash in surges, but then so that is getting rich, but we weren't building wealth, and that's a different concept. So for us, multifamily provided the opportunity for us to build long-term wealth and defer taxes, and is also a hedge against inflation because rents typically trend with inflation. So why multifamily versus other asset classes? Because some other asset classes can accomplish the same goals. We sat down 4 years ago, we have a standing 6-month meeting in which we structure our family, and we go over financial planning, just everything. And what we decided is we wanted to change our strategies because we found that flipping wasn't getting us to our ultimate goal, nor did it have the potential to do that. So what we wanted to do is come up with a strategy that would create more legacy wealth building. And we then took no joke, we took a dry erase board and we wrote down every single asset class we could possibly think of. And over the next 3 months, we literally drilled it down to figure out which asset class aligned with us and which asset class we fundamentally believed in. So not only from a personal perspective, but if you look at the fundamentals of multifamily, first of all, everyone needs a house in which to live in, and we have a significant housing shortage. Even if you look at the supply that's coming for the next 5 years, almost every major MSA has a deficit based off of the demand of current demand, not even future demand, which future demand will continue to increase. Even if we look at COVID right now, there is one article that I read this week that mentioned that the application for divorce rate has increased 34% because of COVID. So now you're taking a single household in which 2 people reside, and now the demand is double because now that spouse who's getting divorced needs somewhere to live. One could argue they could move in with friends, family, but there is going to be a percentage of that that needs housing and is going to want to live on their own, which creates even additional demand. I also looked into whether or not that COVID would create a baby boom, and fortunately / unfortunately, however you want to look at it, it's not doing that. It's actually the opposite. It's creating a decrease in the average birth whatever, it's not birth rate, but newborns, I guess. I don't know what the correct terminology is, but increase in population. So there's that component of it too. We specifically are in anywhere from like B- to A- housing, and that's very strategic as well, because we feel based off of the market cycles historically over long-term investing, those asset classes tend to fare pretty well through all market cycles, as opposed to focusing strictly on A class or strictly on like D and C class properties. So we've just been very strategic in not only the asset class, but the specifics about that asset class that attract us.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And I'll get to your question at the end, Angel. I saw your question. So did you? I know. Part of your deal in Houston. What was your biggest takeaway from your deal in Houston? Because I know Jay Scott was part of it and things like that. But what was a learning experience from that deal?
I feel like the rest of the night I could tell you all of the learning experiences I've had so far. If you're not learning on every single deal, then that's an issue because there's just so many lessons to be learned no matter how long you're in the business, because you should always be challenging yourself to figure out ways in which you can operate better. One way in which we, just full transparency, we were under letter of intent. So anyone who doesn't understand the commercial process, it's completely different than how you put a residential property under contract. So a residential property is just one step. Commercial real estate is really the wild, wild west. The general acceptable way in which commercial real estate is put under contract is a 2-step process. First, with what's called a letter of intent, which is an LOI. And while you are under an LOI, which historically has been considered a gentleman's handshake agreement, then you come together and build what is called the purchase and sale agreement, or the PSA. The reason why it's a 2-step process is because the purchase and sale agreement is when the lawyers get involved. And if that doesn't trigger in your mind translation for a lot of money and a lot of time wasted, that's exactly what happens. So during the purchase and sale agreement creation, because it takes weeks to kind of come together and agree on the nitty-gritty of the details, under the LOI, it's accepted in the industry that you are technically not under a enforceable contract. In other words, even if our LOI, which it did state, mentioned that the seller had to remove the property off market, could not solicit the property, or cannot entertain any additional offers, couldn't go under contract with someone else. They actually did do that. So it is just not standard practice in commercial real estate then to sue a seller. That's just not the way it works, for some unfortunate reason. I don't really understand why, to be honest with you. It's kind of like one of those things where this is the way it's always been done. And that's the way that everyone kind of falls in line. So despite the fact that our LOI was kind of, in my opinion, it was ironclad, the conditions, and the seller just, pretty much did not uphold their part of the LOI, there was nothing we could really do about it. There's nothing we could change about the LOI. We sent our LOI around to several different lawyers. We got feedback that nothing in our LOI was something they would have changed to make the LOI stronger. It was just unfortunate situation. But one thing I did learn mirrors Leka's lesson that she just talked about, which is this whole concept of patience, because ultimately the deal cycled back to us. And the reason in part was because of COVID. Considering the fact that I came from pharma and vaccine research, I knew the process. I knew there would be a second wave. I knew there would be a third wave. And I called the broker out and said, when this has a second wave in Houston, your buyer's going to back out and you're going to call me. And what happened was on a Sunday night, they said they reported on the news that Houston was going through a second wave. Monday morning, first thing, 9 a.m., I got a call from the broker telling me that the buyer broke out and apologized profusely to me. So now the broker and I are really good friends and we kind of laugh about it and everything. But the lesson to be learned is really, hold your ground, make sure your LOI is ironclad, and then know when you're in the right and know when you're in the wrong, know when you need to make adjustments, and know that some deals are just outside of your control. But if you hold up to your own morals and ethics, that it can circle back around for you, especially in commercial real estate.
Wow. That's awesome right there. That's awesome right there. Yeah. So Leka, you were talking about residential assisted living. What's appealed to you about REL?
Just the sheer need that we have in our country, with baby boomers coming of age. There's 10,000 people that turn 65 years and older every single day. And the number of caregivers for these people are on a rapid decline. So I just feel like we, as we're all in real estate, we can do something about this. We can provide that inventory because that's what we know how to do, is build homes, create, like Ashley was saying, even multifamily homes, larger assisted living facilities, because the most important thing to do is create a better living experience for our seniors. And it's really sad because life expectancy is going up at a rapid pace. People are living at the same time. Sorry, and yeah, also at the same time, diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia is hitting people at a much younger age, 70, 75. And so people need long-term care for much longer than they've ever had in the past. So for us, what we're doing is we're going to go out to different cities, different states. We're going to talk to providers that need homes, that don't necessarily have the wherewithal to go build more homes. And then we're going to go and build out homes for these providers. So we're going to hold the real estate and then we're going to have them run a business out of our homes. That, and also the economics is like, it's huge. Within the whole assisted living asset class, which got highly, like, it was one of the worst hit asset classes during the pandemic. that and hotels. Within that asset class, though, adult family care, which is smaller group homes, was a massive unicorn. People want to move their parents to a smaller setting where they can have more one-on-one care than big nursing homes and big assisted living facilities. So just so many reasons, so many reasons.
Yeah, I really like it, and I did a class on the last year, and I really like I think that's the wave of that's a new one for art real estate in my mind, because like you said, the silver tsunami going on, and it's baby boomers are getting older, and then the next generation comes after that. So I think that's going to be here to stay for a long, long time. And like you said, there's a shortage in our nation already. Um, I know I'm all over the place real quick, but you have a great story. Could you just talk about um, how you started in real estate from Nordstrom's to now? Because I think it's so inspirational, your story.
Yeah, sure. So I moved to the country in 2006. And when I moved here, I joined Nordstrom Corporate in a strategy role and worked there for about 8 years. And I thought that's where I was going to retire. I was going to retire at Nordstrom, and I was going to be very happy because I was, I love fashion, I love being creative, and I got to do that at my job every single day. But growing up in India, I was always an entrepreneur. I had my first business at the age of 18. And so I'm here in this country that I don't know anybody, and I know this one job, and I go to this and I go do this job from 9 to 5 every day. And something hit me in about 2013, 2014. I just had my firstborn, and I'd gone back to work, and I was like, man, I do not want to work for someone else. I'm making someone else really wealthy, and I could be spending the same time doing something that I'm passionate about, really making a difference to one other person's life. And just going out there and forging my own path. And so that's kind of what led me to even start looking at other things that I could potentially do. And so real estate just happened to be one of them. And like I said before, I wanted to build homes, but one day I was driving in my car, and there was an ad for a fix and flip company that was coming to Seattle to do a seminar. And so I literally did like a 20-minute seminar over my lunch break. And all that information that they were giving out on the different asset classes and fix and flip and real estate investing strategies blew my mind. And I was like, wow, I need to explore this more. And I ended up doing a much longer course. And then I ended up buying one of those big courses and doing like a 6-month program with this company. It's called Fortune Builders. And that really was what gave me the whole foundation for real estate investing. And from there, I was like, okay, now I can get super creative and I can do different kind of deal structures, which is how I got started in real estate.
Awesome. And
I know, and unlike Ashley, I had no family construction background. Like, she was apparently born with a hammer in her hand. I did not know the difference between drywall and sheetrock. I mean, I didn't know that they were the same thing, let's just say. So that was me.
Ashley, so I'm just gonna go back to your multifamily, but okay, I mean, you said that you want to switch from single to multi. So what did you do? And once you identify multi, what did you do? Because I'm a go into the mastermind group you guys went to a couple years ago in a minute question. But what did you do as far as what was the first steps you did when you first got into multi?
What was the first steps I did when I got to multi, or to get me to multi?
Yeah. So once you identify, look, I'm going to get out single, I'm gonna go to multi. What is your first steps that you did once you got into it?
Prior to coming to that realization of multi, because we started with 22 and then the rest of the story is basically we both put a check mark next to the asset classes that we were interested in, and naturally half of the board disappeared because we eliminated all of the ones that we both weren't on the same page on. And then what we did is kind of like a high school debate class where we took half the asset classes we agreed with and assigned to one person and the other half assigned to the other person. We had to come up with pros and cons and like present it in a debate fashion to each other to kind of pick apart the asset class and also find the benefits of the asset class and figure out which best fit our long-term goals. So we had done our research in advance is basically where I'm going with this. Now, there is so much more research that needed to be done afterwards. It wasn't to the level of knowledge that I have today, clearly. But the first thing I can say, and it's something that everyone can do literally after they get off the call, is put it out into the atmosphere. And that seems like so trivial. And it seems like that is, I don't know, that's common sense, but let me tell you exactly why I am saying put it out to the atmosphere. I had a mentor. I had someone that I looked up to in the real estate world for 5 years. And I told this individual, yeah, I'm really interested in commercial. I'm really interested in multifamily. I want to get into multifamily, large multifamily. I don't want to do small multifamily. And I really, really want to get into it. It intrigues me. And I wanted to talk to you about it because I know you're already in this space. And what he said to me was, I have a property under contract right now, 124 units. It's a $2 million rehab, and I don't know how to rehab, but you do, because I've been talking with you for 5 years and you know construction. Would you consider joining as a GP and running construction on this deal? And that all I did was put it out in the atmosphere. I literally just put it out in the atmosphere. Some can argue, well, you had the construction knowledge beforehand, you had this mentorship beforehand. You guys have connections that you don't even realize that are at that level. And if you just put it out into the atmosphere and really own what you want, it's amazing what you can get. Like the power of the ask and the power of just putting things out there, it's amazing what comes back at you. So that was within a few months of us deciding. I think we decided in January and I was partnered in May. I mean, that's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that I didn't have to do the stacking method where, you know, I did smaller multis to get myself there. I literally just put it out in the atmosphere. I provided value to someone. I figured out a way that I could provide value to someone. And the great thing about large multi is it's a team sport and it requires a lot of different skill sets to execute. So it could be someone who is incredibly savvy with accounting, marketing, operations, construction, deal sourcing, and networking. I mean, everyone on this call has a core genius. It's a matter of whether or not you're really leading with that core genius or you're leading with your weakness. Leading with your weakness is saying, I really don't know a lot about multifamily. Can you help mentor me? Leading with your strength and saying, I'm really interested in multifamily and I'm really good at marketing. Could I market and help you promote your company, your brand, attract new investors, attract tenants to your property in exchange for you teaching me about multifamily? That's leading with value. So I think that I kind of took that principle, I executed upon that, and that was literally my way in which I could get into the space.
Hey, dropping jewels, dropping gems. For both of you ladies, could you guys talk about the power of networking? I think you guys know where I'm going at with this one, but can you guys talk about the networking and how it's impacted your business over the last couple of years? Now, I know, you know, I'm not going to get into about, you know, Maui, because I mean, I think that's awesome. But just can you tell about how the power of networking over the last couple of years has impacted your business in a positive way?
Yeah, I can go. First of all, core genius and leading with your strength. That is amazing. That is, I'm taking that. I was like mental note to self and on that note. But networking literally has changed my life in real estate. people ask me all the time, like, hey, how do you find your deals? I don't send direct mail to sellers directly because I really sucked at direct mail. I tried it, I was bad at it, and that was it. So the way that I source every single deal is through my network. I go out to my network. Hey, I have 500 grand to do a 1031 exchange. What do you have? And I can get like 7 deals. And this is in a hot market where there's nothing available. And these are all off market deals that I would be happy with any of them, right? But it takes time to build that network. But I would say, like, the way that I approach anybody in my life is, how do I add value to you first? And then if there's ever an opportunity, you can add value back to me. But like, what do you need first? And I think that's just important to build a trust, because everybody's busy. There's like billions of people in the world. Like, why are you that important one? Why are you worth my time? So I think, and also just, I saw what my networking and my network did for my career, and I decided back in 2018 to start a meetup group. And so we met once a month in person, and it just became this massive group. Like, there was 100 people attending every month in the local Seattle market. And now, because of COVID, we went virtual, and again, it's been a runaway success, because now we have people all over the globe. Like, Claudia is in Germany. We have people from New Zealand, from India, from Poland, from Belize. Like, it's crazy. Zimbabwe attend. They stay up at night to attend our meetup. And like, Ashley's been on it. Like, we have some amazing speakers. And my goal is to show people that the person in the next frame on a Zoom call right next to your face could be someone that can help you in a massive way. Could be your private lender, could be your deal finder, could be just your shrink. Like, sometimes I just need someone to talk to. And so I just think networking is huge. That's the only way to get ahead. I'm in that crossroads I told you, like going from residential to commercial. And again, it's my network that's helping me get there. So just, and like Ashley says, put it out in the universe, and someone's going to get you over that hurdle.
For me, I completely agree with everything Leka just mentioned. But the one thing that I think I would add to that is, there's a saying that money is in the follow-up. And my response to that is, success is in the follow-up. I think that a lot of times people make an initial contact, but there's no follow-up to it. And what ends up happening is that relationship drops off. If you're not in front of someone's face and their, the forefront in their prefrontal cortex, so to speak, you're gone from their mind. So to me, every single situation that has led to success for me has because, I don't know, I'm tripping over my words here, is because that I've followed up. So just a case in point, last week I made an offer on a property, and I followed up with the broker after I emailed it to them. And even though I know they had received it, they were confirmed via email, I just called them to, talk a little bit further about this deal that I had sent over an offer on. And during that call, he said, "Oh, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, while I have you on the phone, there's actually 2 other deals that I think you might be interested in," and then sent them to me right away. Would he have sent me those deals if I hadn't called him? I would bet no. So I think the idea is that if you stay in front of people, you add value. To Leka's point, you're not, I wasn't calling him to ask for a deal. I was calling him to follow up, make sure, everything's okay, understand when the call for offers were. But ultimately, I really think that whether you're trying to partner with someone and get visibility there, or you're trying to network with brokers, whatever the relationship is, if you're not following up with them, there's just too much distraction in the world today that they're not going to remember you.
Yeah, That is so true. That is so true. Um, I'm gonna let the attendees ask questions in a minute. Um, so I know you guys are part of the Maui Mastermind group, and I want to be part of it next year. But are you guys thinking about moving to Maui? I already see, Best Girl Britt doing it. I already see Alex doing it. Toro's doing it. Are you guys moving to Maui too?
I would love to if Ashley will take me with her.
I just I can't come to terms with the taxes. I mean, my whole strategy is to avoid taxes and then I'm going to move to Hawaii. Like that just is not common sense for me.
Right.
It's beautiful. I love it. But I think I'm too stuck on the tax part of it.
Right. I just think that it's awesome that those two took that opportunity to do that because of the network that they was around. And it all started with them going to that Maui Mastermind group, especially with Alex. I remember him telling me that, and now look what he's doing now, and he's still having his business while living in Maui. So I think that's just awesome right there. I can go on and on asking questions, but I will let our attendees ask questions, starting with Angel, because she asked the first question. So Angel, and then Kenneth after that.
Hey, so I had a question about the birth rates. Do those statistics change based on I guess, household income? Because I would assume that there would be some trend going lower to higher on incomes.
To be honest,
just guessing.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't know because it didn't break down the statistic that way. It just gave me the global statistic of birth rate nationally due to COVID. That was just what the study was. So I don't even know if they looked at it in terms of that. I'm sure there's statistics out there somewhere though that speak to that point.
Thanks.
Kenneth?
As always, Ashley, a great value. And Leka, thanks for coming tonight. Question for Ashley. One of the other impacts we saw of COVID was that the spike in prices for raw materials like plywood, drywall, everything like appliances, everything you need to do when you do a value add to a property. From your viewpoint, do you see that abating in the next 6 to 12 months, or do you still see that supply and price pressure on those components?
I still see this pressure on those components. In fact, I actually see it rising. The other potential threat is everything in construction comes down to two variables. It's materials and labor. So you have the materials component, which you're talking about, but I think the other component that a lot of people aren't talking about is the labor. And with the discussion, this is not political, and I don't ever take a side politically. Just if you know me, I just focus on whatever the facts are, and then I adjust my strategy based on those facts. But if the minimum wage increases as well, that's going to be a huge impact to value adds across the board and construction cost across the board. So if you look at the supply chain of the materials, you still see a deficit on the logistics component of it. We're still having major holdups in terms of delivery and the actual overall supply. I don't think it helped with the whole what's it called, the canal why am I
The Suez and Evergreen.
the Suez Canal.
Oh,
Yeah,
Suez.
so I think it was estimated at $10 million a day was lost globally. So I think there's a lot of fallout from that as well, for raw materials to get to those additional supplies. But to your point on, the lumber rates where you used to get a piece of plywood for $4 and now it's like $32. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Where's that? Okay. Corey, you got anything to ask?
Not really to ask, but I really have learned a lot from both of you. Thank you so much for speaking. My wife works at a assisted living facility, so hearing you have passion and enthusiasm for investing in those types of homes, it actually is heartwarming to me. So I do appreciate that. That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
She's doing something amazing. It's not easy.
Yeah. No, for sure. And to your point, her facilities had so many people, and at this point, 2 different COVID outbreaks. So I can definitely see the move towards people wanting their elderly relatives to be in a smaller type community of that nature. So it just is awesome to hear you guys passionate about investing in that avenue and lane.
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah.
Hold on for a minute, Greg. Also, Leka, have you got with Eric Diallo about RELs? He's really passionate about that. Oh, we'll talk about the efforts, I think, because Eric is really, matter of fact, he did a meetup. When he did our meetup, he talked about RELs. He's really passionate about that. So
awesome.
And I do want to say about Leka too is that Leka has constantly been on the meetups that I attend, network with people, and I just see her growth as far as that too, getting a multifamily and coming to Zoom at 8 and other meetups to network with people. So kudos to you, Leka.
Thank you.
All right, Greg, go ahead.
All right, everybody. Good evening. Ashley, Leka, thank you so much for some great information. Truly appreciate the information you provided. And I have one question, but I'm just gonna go with one for now, and then I'll come back around. So to piggyback off the last thing that was for Leka, the last thing that was brought up about the assisted living facility. My question is, now with the current outbreak, with the current pandemic on its way out right now, hopefully nothing else happened, no genetic shifts happen causing a new strain. But we're projecting that it's gonna be going out, right? So that the current trajectory is for it to end within next year, at least in the U.S. How do you project the large box ALF facilities what do you project that we have to do to rebuild trust and consequently rebuild clientele levels?
I think already they're doing that. There's a lot more PPEs. There's a lot more like sanitization. There's more care that they're taking. The first, like the ground zero for COVID in the US happened 10 minutes from where I live in an assisted living facility. It's called the Life Care Center, and it's in Kirkland. And there were 34 residents, and 30 out of 34 residents got COVID and died. And it was really sad because my escrow officer's dad was in the facility too. But because of that, I think people like the cities, they're shutting down more nursing homes and going towards the smaller facilities. But in the larger facilities, what I've seen is they just have to be a lot more cautious with who comes in and how they're coming in. I think wearing masks is just going to become a thing of the future. So they're just going to have to take, and given that they've seen what a pandemic can do, they're just going to be more cautious. But I mean, the nursing homes and the larger facilities, they're not going anywhere because we need those rooms. We need those beds.
Thank you, Leka. I have a cousin who actually does that in Florida, and she's actually building a 40-bed in Central Florida area. And I'm gonna be doing business with her, I guess. So she's hoping to put shovel to the ground June, July timeframe. So I'm looking for more information on that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bud, you have anything to ask? I guess you're next, Claudia. Bud, you have anything to ask before I get to Claudia?
Yes, hi ladies. Thank you so much for being here. This is so informative. I have a question about like moving into the real estate, like the commercial space. So you're going from 2 to 4 units, or it's a small multifamily. That's like a conventional loan or personal loan. But if you go into the commercial loans, right, it has to, if it's 5 units or bigger, with the commercial loans being more expensive, and I guess the process in itself is different. Like going to like a 5 or like a small like 6 unit, property. If you're gonna go into that space, is it better to just go bigger than like smaller, just because of everything appears to be a little bit more complicated. What is your opinion on that? Like, would you guys be willing, like if you're looking at commercial space starting off, if you're gonna go into it, it's like small multifamily, or will you try to just like, if you're gonna go into that space, might as well just go big and try to like build your team, maybe, syndicate and maybe go bigger? And if you could speak to that, I would really appreciate it.
My personal take on it is it really depends on what your overall strategy is and what you're trying to get out of investing. So my personal belief is it's obviously better to go bigger because it's the same amount of work. And it's just another zero at the end kind of philosophy. But that being said, I know a lot of people who do smaller multifamily and they're hugely successful, especially because they don't have as many partners. So it's easier for them to make operational decisions, such as whether or not they should refinance, whether or not they should sell the property. It's just in terms of just overall operationally. And what the strategy is. You want to hold it long term? Do you want to 1031 out of it? Gives you more flexibility on the exit. But on the flip side, no pun intended, you can also just do the similar amounts of work, except for the fact that you're able to leverage and use economies of scale. And on smaller multifamily, you can't do that. I like to say that, maybe 5, 10, 20 units falls into the 20 or below bucket, but there's really kind of this bucket of like no man's land. And I would say that's 20 to 70 units. And it's typically because you don't have both economies of scale and leverage. I mean, there's a reason why, just if you look at numbers wise, a lot of people aren't in that space. The only way in which I see it very advantageous to get into that space, what I call the no man's land, is when you're able to buy within a specific market, and you can then still at least get economies of scale. Meaning that, let's say, for example, you have a 20 unit and right down the street, you have another 20 unit, and then 4 blocks away, you have another 20 unit. You could probably have one property manager across all of those properties, right? But the idea is that, let's say, for example, that you have a 70 unit. Well, you need to put one property manager on that property, right? But I have, just as a parallel, I have another property that's stabilized with 120 units, and I only have one property manager on that property. So in terms of looking at the income to expense ratio and the offset, you're able to get better economies of scale when you go larger. And you're not maximizing the whole concept of leveraging the bank's ability to offset your purchase price. So there's other ways in which, and especially too on smaller multis, most people don't really syndicate smaller multis, they syndicate larger multis. So you can also leverage the equity too by having other investors come in, passively invest. But that's just that's my strategy. That doesn't mean that the other strategies, are wrong. I'm kind of highlighting the cons and speaking on the pros on the strategy I selected, but I really think it comes down to what your goals are.
Yeah.
Bud?
Yeah, ladies, you're awesome. Much respect. I've got a couple of questions though. From somebody who's going from single family homes to multifamily homes, how did you scale? How many W-2 or W-9 employees did you start with, or 1099 employees did you start with? And then how'd you make the transition to get where you are now, relative to the number of people that you use? Like it's a lot of, this is a lot of question, right? There's one question, 36 different parts. So how exactly did you move to that next level? And how many people did you move to? How did you separate up? Do you have marketing? Do you have, I'm just curious about like the total picture, where you were versus where you are now, and how exactly you made that happen.
Can I just ask one clarifying question?
Please.
What is your goal? Are you wanting to scale to how many units, like on the commercial side, are you looking to tackle?
Okay, so my goal is, so I'm retiring from the military in the next year. So I'm looking at going from, no kidding, right now I have $17,000 in monthly income from single family properties, and I'm looking to scale that from now to 55 to $100,000 per month. And at the time I'm 60, to have $100 million in assets with $50 million in net worth, if that clarifies it for you. I want to be able to make the phone call to a friend to say, hey, get the jet fired up.
It's awesome. So obviously you want to do large multi. That's very clear. I think it's easier to do it that way, but it also depends on where you're getting your equity from. So large multi lends itself very well to be a team sport. And instead of thinking of this, I mean, there's two ways in which you do it. You trade equity or you trade compensation. So you either need to find people to work for you to just pay them a salary. That's one way in which you can do that. You can either W-9 or 1099, depending on how you want to do that. Or you can trade equity in terms of, if someone finds a deal, you give them a percentage. If someone asset manages for you, you give them a percentage, etc. I would say if you don't have the experience going in to it, you have to ask yourself the question, who's going to train these people to get them to know what they're doing, right? But I mean, you can recruit people who have done it previously. I'm not trying to discount that, but there has to be a conductor, right? There has to be someone who understands the overall process and understands what every single person's role is, to understand how they all come together and work together. So that's really critical to putting that piece of the puzzle together. Alternatively, what I would recommend is a strategy similar to what I experienced, which is you figure out a way in which you can partner with someone on your first deal so you can learn how that all comes together. And then from there, you step aside and do your own thing after you learn all the pieces to the puzzle. Maybe you already learn all the pieces, you already know all the pieces to the puzzle, and you don't need to do that step. I don't know where you are in terms of like your knowledge of executing these large multifamily deals, but typically the person who is, you know, the front runner, the head of whatever company, fully understands every single role that needs to be done. And that's how they're able to operate the overall infrastructure of the company in an efficient manner. I can tell you that our company has been in business now for 3 years, and we only recently, as of this week, hired 4 people. Prior to that, I had no 1099s, I had no W-2s, because what we did is we traded equity for deal by deal. And we did that to understand the entire process, because it's not a one deal learning lesson. You have to go through several properties to fully understand all of the craziness that comes up in these transactions and owning the properties. Because if you have a deal that goes great, what happens when you're the lead and all of a sudden your deal's going under and you need to do a capital call? How do you know how to handle that? How do you know how to handle the investors? And then the other missing component, which I don't know if you have figured out or not, is how are you getting your equity? So the numbers that you just said, those numbers lend itself that you're going to need big time money, institutional funds. You're probably not going to be looking to, or a fund in general, whether you create that fund or not. But those types of deals are not, the syndication deals that you see all over the internet of like, you can invest in this deal. They're very large deals that need capital ready to be deployed at any time. A lot of times they're large companies. They can be family offices. There's a lot of different private equity groups out there that are looking to place that type of capital. But in order to access that capital, you typically need 5-10 year track record minimum to touch that capital. So you either need to align yourself with someone like that, or build your track record really fast, because even if you're successful for the first 3 years, they don't care, because you haven't gone through a full market cycle yet to show that you can perform in multiple market cycles in multiple markets. That's what they're investing in.
Awesome. Real quick follow-up. So I have my 3-year, I have my 5-year, I have my 8-year plan, which takes me from, my current age to 55 to 58 to 60. And I'm already looking at how to get from spot one to from spot one to from A to Z. Okay. So what I'm looking at is this. I just kind of dropped the ball on a 38 unit, which Aaron's already familiar with. I'm in the process of working on a 70+ unit deal right now. The mistake that I made with the first deal was bringing that out as a joint venture without a partner where I could share, like we were just talking about, like you just so brilliantly brought up, that equity aspect of it. So with the 70 unit that I'm going to look at, or that I'm already, the walkthrough went through today. So I should have all of the information that I need later on, hopefully by tomorrow at the latest. Bringing in an equity partner as a senior on this deal, you would say that would be extremely important to get this ball rolling on a 70 unit deal.
You should be always looking for equity. You should be looking for equity before you have deals. You should be having some sort of marketing package that speaks to not only your track record and who you are, but where you are going and what types of deals you're looking for and what types of returns that you're targeting, so that they are already primed and you already get a feeling of whether they are cold, warm, or a hot lead for you, meaning that once you get that deal, you know whether or not you're calling company A or company B, or you're not calling either of them and you're scrambling to find other equity. So I would always suggest that you're constantly on the horn for equity, which is why typically you need someone dedicated full-time that just focuses on equity. Okay, especially if you want to go, like, I think your goals are awesome. And I honestly think that it seems like your mindset is someone who definitely can achieve that. So if you want to achieve that, you got to bet on yourself. You got to bet on yourself and say, I'm going to take that risk and I'm going to have someone full-time work on equity because I know I'm going to get that deal.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Always be networking, right?
Don't worry, but I know a guy who capital raises, man, for equity, man. So I know a guy. He's part of the GOB network.
I need to meet him. If I don't know him already, I need to meet him.
Yeah. I think that person got to talk. So I know we're short for time. So Gregory, you are the last person to ask questions. This has been awesome. But Gregory, go ahead, please, sir.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. My last question, I guess, is going to be for both Ashley and Leka. And before I made the last question, I know, Ashley, you mentioned something about in terms of labor. And I also realized that if something like an infrastructure bill goes through, then a lot of those employees are going to be working on construction in different locations as well. And so that might also impact the availability of people working on apartments as well. But what I want to mention is that I'm glad that you mentioned that there's a very famous level of women in the real estate investment industry. As a realtor, I do realize there's a lot of women as realtors, but not real estate investors. And also from my experience, and conversations I've had with other investors, mainly male investors, one of the complaints that they tend to have is their spouse has no interest in it, has no interest in even picking up a book just to entice the idea at all, which then brings me to think that a part of the problem isn't just history, of course, but part of the problem is a disinterest by women. So my question is, what do you believe is a good way that we can help bring more women in the industry?
This is one of the top questions that I get asked. So I have a canned response already primed, ready to go for you. Here we go. So first and foremost, if we look at the history of women in work, women were not encouraged to go into the workforce historically. And then when they were encouraged to go into the workforce, they were only encouraged to go into certain fields. From there, they now are women as, you know, a gender have been encouraged to go into whatever field they want, but more specifically recently, they've been asked to go into STEM fields because we need more diversification in STEM. I look at real estate investing comparable to a house. I look at having a strong foundation in mathematics is the same as having a foundation to a house. I believe that accounting and finance comprehension are the walls to that house. And I believe investing is the roof. You cannot put on a roof unless you have strong walls in which to support, which are positioned on a foundation. So that's for starters. Second, I believe that a lot of times that when women are introduced to real estate investing, it's because their spouse is speaking to them in a language in which they don't understand. So what do I mean by that? When you're networking with someone and someone speaks in terms of numbers, how do you speak to them? You speak to them in terms of numbers, because otherwise they are not going to make any movement in terms of building that relationship. If they're an analytical person, you have to speak to them analytically. If there's someone who believes in fluff and, you know, positive type of, you have to speak to them that way. You have to find what interests your spouse and speak to them in a way that highlights that component in real estate, because every single aspect of life can be found in real estate. So I believe if you're trying to get your spouse involved in, let's say, multifamily, and your spouse is someone who really likes the design side of, you know, like is watching HGTV shows, but then doesn't want to invest, you can say to them, oh, do you know that, you know, with apartment investing, there's this, it's like, you know, flipping on steroids in the sense that you can fully convert these properties, and people actually design these apartment buildings to make improvements upon them, just like they do in single family, as opposed to talking about them about, like, do you know what the return is on investing in multifamily? It'd be really cool to underwrite some properties and take a look at what we can get in returns. The one strategy is a way in which it, you know, similar interests, speaking that language and piques that interest. The other is talking in a completely different language in which, you know, someone isn't going to relate to. And ultimately, I think as a human nature, we tend to gravitate towards things we're good at, right? So for example, no one says I'm great at baseball, I love baseball, and then goes and gets hit in the head every single time they go out with a baseball. They normally are people are hitting home runs every time they go up to bat in baseball. If you provide an opportunity in which your spouse can see themselves excelling at something, that is a way in which you can open the door and start the conversation. I don't know if Leka, if you have some thoughts there.
Yeah, you know, the other thing too is my husband is a techie and he's a super analytical numbers person. And for him, he has no interest in doing half the things that I do in real estate. Like he doesn't, you know, he doesn't want to, like he'd much rather do his thing and then I do my thing. And then I reach out to him when there's something that I need his help with, which is mostly numbers related. So it's okay for a spouse to not be interested in real estate. You know, what you could do is find them an awesome book, like The Only Woman in the Room, or like, you know, just a Rich Dad Poor Dad book, or one of the Brandon Turner books, and just be like, hey, read this, you know, or find an awesome podcast to listen to. And if that inspires them, then they're automatically going to do it. The other thing that I have found is the passion can help you move mountains. And if you're passionate about something, then you're going to stick with it, and you're going to stick with it for a long term. So if there's no passion there, it just suddenly becomes a chore. So just understanding whether there's that fire and passion for this field is another big thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, so while you guys were talking, I was trying to write down a whole bunch of notes. So I gotta watch the replay again because you guys wrote. I mean, y'all said so many great gems that I gotta rewatch this so I can put it on a newsletter or something like that. But thank you so much, ladies, for the awesomeness that you guys brought. You guys are free to stick around if you want to. We have something we call roll call, where I just go down and talk about different real estate agencies, and then we have breakout rooms, and then we had the world famous after party this meetup started that others are now starting to do now. But Ashley and Leka, just thank you so much. Like I said, thank you again for coming on short notice. And before we get into that, Leka, and Ashley, can you both just tell your contact information and where to find you at and promote your brands?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram as Leka Devatha and on LinkedIn. You can find me and follow me or reach out to me on either of those platforms.
What about your meetup?
Oh yeah, my meetup too. Let me post a link to my meetup. Feel free to join the meetup page, and we have some amazing guests coming up. So would love to see you all there.
Ashley?
You can find out more about everything that I talked about, including a link to the book and my different company websites at badashinvestor.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram at badashinvestor.
Okay. So, yeah, like I said, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for the content. I think that people are going to be reaching out to you. I can't wait to see this replay again and this write down more of what you guys are talking about. Thank you so much. Thank you for the insight you guys provided. I know people like Claudia, who's there. It's 2:00 in the morning in Germany, but she's excited that she able to come. She was super excited. I'm happy that you guys are joint together. And you're free. I mean, always welcome to come back and to this meetup. So let me go to roll call real quick, and then we can go from there. So for the military, ADPI, Attitude Passive Income. If you guys want more information, please let me know. But it's a great. They have great information. They also have a multi-family mastermind group semi-annually, and they have their own podcast. So look up ADPI, look up Mike Foster, Tim Kelly, others. Seven Figure Flipping with Bill Allen. I know some of you guys are military only here. Bill Allen actually is having his REI conference. Once again, that's in May. I'm really excited for it because that's where I met Michael Barnhart. I met Kenneth and others on there. A great group of military speakers. It's for free. But Seven Figure Flipping with Bill Allen is a great program that he's started. You get a lot of information. White Feathers, they're based out of California, and they are military affiliated real estate as well. So if you want information, please let me know. All these are on my website as well. If you go to All In Homes, these resources, they are in the REI groups. So if you guys want information, please let me know. And then also for civilians, Bigger Pockets, Leka and Ashley are very active in there. And that's the #1 real estate conference in the world right there, Bigger Pockets. Ring, wholesale real estate investment group that I'm part of, and several others. We have chapters in New York City, LA, St. Louis, Raleigh, North Carolina, Fayetteville, and others. So you want to maybe let me know. And then also, of course, the GOB network that plenty of us are on. GOB Network Apartment Investors. It's a growing brand. And the reason why I say that last is because the GOB Network is now on Clubhouse. So if you guys want Clubhouse, please join the GOB Network. If you want to start a room, please let me know because we haven't started a room in the GOB Network yet. So, but GOB Network is a growing network a lot of free information, a lot of great people doing great things, and our mindset is it's not being competitive. It's about coming together to knock out deals. We don't have the competitive mindset at the GOB network. It's about coming together to help each other out, knock out deals. So you want more information about GOB network, please contact me or others like Bud, Greg, Mark Caesar, Lawrence